Hey guys, this is Miss Cat, and today we're going to be talking about how to create a timer. So we want to display the time as it's going forward in this video. So we'll all do a separate video on how to count down in time. This one's going to be about how to count and just have the numbers go up as time goes on. And so the first thing we're going to need to make sure is if you have not already done this with your health UI or your pickup UI, if you haven't done those yet, you're going to right click and hit UI and create a canvas. And so I already have one right here, but remember a canvas allows us to see everything that we have for a heads-up display or HUD, right? And so anything we want to stick around with our player. Now, if you haven't added canvas before, make sure that under render mode on your canvas, you have screen space overlay clicked. And for UI scale mode, you're scaling with screen size. So that way, whenever I go up and down, my images stay in the corners instead of like getting smaller on the screen, which does happen unless you have scale with screen size selected. All right, so let's get into this. The first thing I'm going to do is on canvas, I'm going to right click, I hit UI, I'm going to make a text. And so this one, we just want to see the actual text. And I'm going to change this up to like, I don't know, 40 or so. And that's just so I can see it. And as you can see, it disappeared right here. No worries, it just means that our little bounding box for it isn't big enough. So if you click right up here, that's all I did. You can scale it to where it fits the size of the text. I'm going to go ahead and put it more in the middle, and I'm going to have it center. All right, so I've got this going right here, and I want to go ahead, I'm going to rename this timer, and down here I am going to just put in time. This text is going to be replaced with what we code in, so it doesn't really matter what's there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and create a C# script. I'm going to name this timer, and I'm going to go ahead and open it. So it's no big deal there. Once again, we want to start this off by saying using Unity engine.UI. Remember, that gives us access to everything in the UI system. So images, text, buttons, all of that. That allows us to use that as like actual codes and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say public text. And then I'm going to say time text. So time text. So that's what is actually, that is actually what our text is. And so then under that, I'm going to say private, float, start time. All right. So public start, float, start time. So that's a float. That's our start time. And so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say start time equals time.time. And so right at the start, what this does is it grabs the time as soon as our game starts. I know it's kind of weird. It's just kind of the way this code works. So time.time is the exact, it tells us the time that it actually is when our game starts. And so now we're going to do some fun stuff here. And so we're going to do float time. So float time is a float that I've just created right here. I'm going to say equals, or I can call this T if I want, in case time's going to get too confusing with this. So time.time minus start time. So that's going to get me what time it is throughout my game. So my float is going to be that exact time. Then we're going to go ahead and make another line, two more or three more lines of code. And this is going to be how we actually get this. So we have to remember that a float is a number-based thing, right? And so something we haven't really gone over yet is strings. So strings have to do, and I'm going to call this minutes, if I can spell minutes. And so strings have to do with text. So if you have a string, that's the text we see. And we've kind of touched on it with quotation marks and everything else, but we haven't really had to create them yet. And so with this, we're going to have to create them. So minutes, and I'm going to say that I don't want any decimal points when it comes to minutes, even though our t right here is a float when I'm trying to create them. So I'm going to make sure that I do int, which will turn whatever number I get into an integer first. I'm going to do t divided by 60. I say toString. And then I can, and then we need to do our little curls in there. So that's our first one. This is finding the minutes out of our time. And so next we're going to do string seconds equals t with our little percentage sign right here, 60. I'm going to do dot toString, which turns it into a string once again. And I'm going to add my little, semicolon at the end. So right in our toString here, so if I were to use this code and have it start connecting and start printing, our seconds would be like or 3.108 something something something, and it just keep going. So to keep that from happening, we're going to add in this line of code in here by just adding quotations within our toString and put F2, and that means it's only going to go 2 decimals in, which is pretty nice. Altogether, if you don't want it to have any decimals on your seconds, the other option you have is to come in here and put int. So like we did up here, this turns this number into a full integer, so you don't have any decimal points. I kind of like having the decimal points because then if someone's like 3 seconds in, but they are so many milliseconds off, it works a lot better for when you're playing with friends and you're trying to say, oh, I beat your time. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next, we're going to add in our actual how we're going to get this information. So timer, our time text dot text equals minutes plus, I'm going to do quotations because we're trying to get that string, right? So minutes is already a string here. So this is telling us exactly what our text is going to print. It's going to print minutes dot, and then quotations for our dot, so it actually prints our dot, and then I'm going to put seconds and a semicolon right there. So I'm going to hit Command S to save it. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this real quick. And I'm going to just attach my timer to my canvas. I don't really need to put it anywhere else. It doesn't have anything that affects anything else. So give it a second. There we go. So with that on there, I'm going to make sure I grab my timer and throw it in there. So when I press play, we should see our times start to go up. So as you can see, we've got almost a millisecond thing going here, seconds. And if we kept going, it would turn into a minute. I'm not going to leave it for 60 seconds just to turn it into a minute, but you can kind of see how things are starting to work together. So I've got a timer going here. I've got my pickups working, and then my health is working. So it all just kind of works together. Now, like I said, this was just to show you how to make a timer that counts up. We'll go over how to get your timer to stop and everything else when we go over like a pause menu and everything. But this is just how to get a timer that goes up in time. And so in my next video, I'm going to do a timer that counts down. And so this is all for this lesson. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you in class tomorrow.